This is a Stock Trading Reality Podcast, episode 151.
So at that time, I was up like $2,000, and I had no idea why or no idea what happened. But I remember feeling, pretty good about myself. But in the back of my head, I knew that, it was pretty much complete luck.
This is the Stock Trading Reality Podcast, where you get to see the realistic side of a trader's journey. Get inspired and stay motivated by everyday normal people who are currently on their journey to trading success. And this is your host. His love of Google Wi-Fi is unending. Clay Trader.
Yes, Google Wi-Fi is just, it blew my mind, and I have such an appreciation for it. Before I got that, it was a headache. The way the house is structured, it was just some rooms, it'd be like, I'm no longer connected to the Wi-Fi. Sometimes in my own office, it was kind of sketchy, and it got to the point where it's like, there's got to be a better way. And luckily, IT Nate, the producer of the show, I asked him, and he had a solution. He said, hey, you should try Google Wi-Fi, and you put these little pods or whatever all around the house, and then it's like a mesh network, and it'll improve things. And I thought, all right, this sounds kind of gimmicky. I saw the price. I'm like, oh, great. This better work. Not that it's super expensive, but boy, oh boy, did it work. Mesh networking, I think that's what it's called. I am a believer, and I am in love with it because I officially now cannot remember the last time where my phone just dropped the Wi-Fi, or my wife's laptop or tablet or whatever, all of a sudden just dropped the Wi-Fi. It's been strong through and through. And I think, I don't even know if I've had to reboot them yet. That's how strong I think they've been. But yeah. And the nice thing about our co-host Ches is he's pretty techie too. So I can just throw these random things and I'll ask him about an opinion. And he probably has an opinion and knows exactly what I'm talking about when it comes to mesh networking. So maybe not necessarily Google Wi-Fi, Ches, but mesh networking. Are you a fan? Would you recommend that to listeners if they are having kind of issues like I was having?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, I'm usually the guy on the forefront of technology, me, IT Nate, and then Clay is always the last one to figure out, oh, this one works well or this one doesn't work well.
That is a fair statement.
I was actually going to do set up my whole house for the same exact reason, using that mesh kind of networking through Google, exactly like you did, and then you said you had like a great experience with it. I was like, okay, so I got one that finally is good enough for inside my house, my backyard, and my front yard. But that's the next direction we're heading as well, because that's the future of kind of networking and stuff like that. And man, I used to have these Wi-Fi repeaters and all this other nerdy stuff, and none of them worked well and correctly when we were in California, and it just drove me absolutely nuts. So I'm glad to hear you had a great experience with it, and I would absolutely recommend it to anybody who has networking problems with their house, depending on the layout, or if it's, a large wide ranch, or it's just too tall, or the materials, whatever it is. That Google mesh networking stuff is really awesome. Yeah,
and that's the repeaters. I had a repeater for a while, and that thing was a piece of crap. I would have to reboot that thing I don't know, but so I had the same experience. Repeaters, hey, if you as a listener, if you're having success with a repeater, then props to you. You're just having better luck than what apparently Ches and I did. But yeah, Google Wi-Fi, I would definitely consider looking into it, and I think you'll be very, very happy with it. Moving on, though, to our interview today, we talk with Angelo. And Angelo, he's in the room somewhat as he discloses. He's been here for about 8 months, here being a member of the community, but he doesn't talk that much. He'll throw out alerts every now and then. But it's a great interview, one where sometimes Ches and I, we just step back and let him go, and he shares and makes some very strong statements. We have a great conversation about, removing temptation and how, that works. And, just little things like that from a mental aspect that all traders can learn from, myself included. It's always a good reiteration. And so whether you're new or old, a lot of good things that I think will open up your eyes. And I realize I kind of say that every week, but it's true. And that's why I love doing this. When you hear from just normal, average people, you can relate to them. And these things that you can relate to, you can also learn from and try to prevent, in your trading. So without further ado, let's hear from Angelo. Angelo, welcome to the show.
How you guys doing? Thanks for having me.
Pretty good. We just learned before we started recording that you have listened to pretty much all the podcast episodes, but I applaud you for your honesty. You just say, well, I've skipped over some that didn't quite piqued my interest in terms of Forex. So I guess that's kind of a spoiler alert. If you're looking for Forex, my guess is you're probably not going to hear anything about Forex. But what I like about these is, and this is more for you newer listeners, we go into these pretty much blind. Our pre-chat before we got recording was very minimal. That is always done on purpose because I want this to be as genuine as possible in terms of just hanging out, talking, get to know, Angelo and more about his journey. And I know you were in the chat room and you go by Angelo James. And I'm trying to think. I feel like you've been around the community for a while, but when did you actually join?
So I joined in April of this year. So I have been around for a while. I'm not too chatty in the chat room. I kind of just sit back and take in the alerts. But when I do see something, I do post an occasional alert. But I probably have only posted about 10 alerts. I would say.
All right, so that makes sense. Then you have been around, and you've thank you for posting alerts. And before I forget, thank you very much for volunteering to be here. Ches and I, we appreciate that. And for you longer time listeners, I've been kind of thanking a lot of people, but yeah, all these past kind of little bunch of interviews have been from volunteers, to which we do appreciate. So Angelo, let's just start at the beginning. I know you know what this question is going to be because you're an avid listener of most of the podcasts, but where did all this start for you? How did you hear about the markets, and what kind of started to happen that got you interested enough to want to get more involved, get more hands-on with the market itself?
Yeah, so I've kind of always had interest, in the world of finance. So in college, I received a dual degree, and one of those degrees was finance. The other was management information systems. But I've kind of always been somewhat aware of what the markets were doing, but outside of just randomly looking at what my target fund and my 401k had holdings in, I really wasn't active in the market at all. But that kind of changed at the beginning of this year. I'd say right around January when I opened up a Robinhood account. So I had a couple of friends, that were using the Robinhood account. Obviously, it was attractive, being that there was no commissions. So that commission-free trading kind of intrigued me. It allowed me to kind of dabble and get more involved in the market without having to pay a bunch of fees and commissions. So I opened an account and threw just $1,000 into it. So again, that was back in January. So at that time, I really had no idea, what I was looking for, what stocks I was going to pick or choose, or how I was even going to get started. But I had the account, and it was fun.
Yeah. It's funny, though, and Clay and I always talk about this, about how cruel it essentially is and how easy it is to make a brokerage account, even though you're not even sure where you're going to use it yet or how you're going to use it or anything like that. But I'm telling you, I just think, Clay, weigh in on this too. It's amazing when you say no fees and no commissions that everybody thinks like, oh, this is great. This will make it a lot easier than if I did have some commissions. And I mean, I was in the same boat. I remember that my whole holy grail search half involved finding the lowest commissions. And then, this is before Robinhood existed. But yeah.
And just to chime in, I fully agree. It's, and it's, I don't know, it's a fine line because we talk about here, make sure you check your commissions. You don't want to be paying insane commissions. But on the flip side, just because commissions are super, super low doesn't actually mean they're low. A quick example I've used before, but we'll just use Robinhood. It is free of charge, and hopefully Robinhood improves. But, there's reports, there's experience, especially as of right now, the recording of this, everything's still got to be from your phone. And if you're on your phone trying to do something and you're trying to get out and you can't quite do it because it's all from your phone, because you have to use your phone because you want those free commissions, and you end up taking, let's just say a $30 loss more than what you should have, well, that's actually, you just paid $30 in commissions right there because by default you couldn't get out because, the platform is kind of clunky for certain types of trading. So, we're not saying that Robinhood isn't good for some, but just because there's $0 commissions, there's always a little caveat there. So that's a good point there. So, Angelo, my kind of question is, you got the finance degree. So clearly, like you said, you were aware of this stuff, and then you decided to sign up for Robinhood. Were you already talking to those buddies that you mentioned, And are they the ones who kind of encouraged you to get it, or was this just completely organic on your own, deciding to go out there and kind of throw some gas on the fire, if you will, of trying to grow your money organically?
Yeah, so I had a couple of buddies that were, into it, and I already had the Robinhood accounts. So, I was just talking with them and just they were showing me the app and things like that. And so I just, I think the kicker at first was just, like you said, like I was saying, the zero commissions. But, knowing what I know now, I understand some of the things that Robinhood doesn't offer, that would allow you to kind of navigate through the markets. But at the time, I was just, those guys were doing it. I was interested in just having the conversations that they were having, learning more about the markets, and I was like, all right, why not just hop in here?
All right, you made a very a good comment. I like the comment. Knowing what you do know now. So knowing what you do know now, looking back, and you mentioned that your buddies were quote unquote into it. How were your buddies into it? Were they into it in a way that was actually very structured, very disciplined, very organized, or were they quote unquote into it? And again, knowing what you know now, in pretty much the same boat as you, where you were just all kind of making it up as you went.
Yeah, they were the same way. I mean, a lot of conversations just, they were picking stocks that were kind of, lower price, just hoping that they kind of just skyrocketed, quote unquote, went to the moon, things like that. There was really no science behind it, but, a lot of just reading Yahoo Finance articles, things like that, trying to pick, which stock or which ticker was going to make a move and, make us some money.
And now, so when you guys kind of got into positions or talked about positions, or whenever you kind of actually pulled, press the buy button, did you have an expectation in terms of how long you might need to sit in it to turn a profit? Were you willing to kind of let these go to zero if they do go to zero, since they're lower price? What was the method to the madness after the research, the due diligence, whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, like I said, there was really no science behind it. That's why, when I sit here and look back now, I can kind of sit here and laugh at it. It's
fun to reflect on where we've come from, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Some of the conversations that we had, I wish I could listen to them now and just kind of sit back and go, what were we thinking? What was I thinking? But that's just what the education has gotten me.
True. And you did a good job right in advance. You didn't say you put $100,000 into Robinhood and then we're going to hear a horror story about how you have $5,000 left or something. So you limited your risk right up front. You only put $1,000 in. So I guess, and this is all at the beginning of this year, right? 2017?
Yeah, this was January 2017.
Gotcha. So I guess how ultimately did those trades turn out for you?
So this is where it gets kind of interesting. So I was someone that ran into a little bit of fool's gold. So again, at the time, I had no science behind it. I was just kind of Yahoo Finance, looking at tickers. And so throughout that research process, if that's what you want to call it, my first purchase,
quote unquote, research.
Yeah, actually, my first purchase was 100 shares of ETRM. So I made that purchase January 6th, before the markets closed, and it was around $8.75 a share or something like that. And for those of you guys who know that ticker and kind of what happened with that, kind of a spoiler alert, but I checked my account 2 days later, and that stock was trading around $29 or $30. So at that time, I was up like $2,000, and I had no idea why or no idea what happened. But I remember feeling pretty good about myself, but in the back of my head, I knew that it was pretty much complete luck.
That's fascinating. So what? I don't know how to phrase the question, but because most people are just like, "Holy crap, I'm a prodigy! I got this figured out. I'm like the greatest trader ever. Look at me. I'm up 2,000." But here, in the back of your mind, you were thinking, "This is pure luck." So was it maybe because you have a finance degree, so you feel like what you learn in school, and then when you run that in parallel with how you actually came across ETRM, you just felt, you knew that it just didn't quite jive? Do you know what I'm saying? Because most people don't they just don't make that connection. But what made you think that it was just all pure luck?
Yeah, I mean, I think with that particular ticker, I had read something, just on Yahoo Finance that talked about, some of the different maybe fundamentals more or less, or some things that were kind of prime in the stock that potentially would have the ability to kind of spike. And so, something on Yahoo Finance, everybody has the ability to read that. So if it was that easy, for me to be able to just, time and time again, read a Yahoo Finance article and make the right pick and make $2,000 in a couple days, I just, that's not sustainable and that's not realistic. So just, kind of being level-headed about it at the time, it was great that it happened, but I knew that, it was kind of pure luck.
I love what you just said. If it was really as easy as reading something randomly on Yahoo Finance, buying it, and then
we'd all be rich.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden being up $2,000, boy. But and unfortunately, and I mean, a lot of people think, oh, that's as easy as it is. You just, because I read something on Yahoo Finance, and because I therefore made money on it, they kind of correlate all those together as, oh, well, that's what you do. That's how it's done. I'm going to go and find something else, and I'll just roll in these profits because I've read something about compounding interest. So I'll just dump everything into this next one, and maybe it works a couple more times, and all of a sudden the horror story shows up. So good on you for just kind of following your gut instincts and following your common sense. So I guess my question is, you're up 2,000, or let me ask, did you realize those gains, or was there some sort of kicker where you didn't actually sell?
Yeah, so for the next couple of trading days, I closely watched that ETRM ticker, hoping for it to just continue to go up, but all it was doing was kind of pulling back. So I think it was January 11th, I sold for about 18 and some change. So I realized about $1,000 of the gains, but at the same time, I was also mad at myself because I felt like I'd left, $1,000 on the table. So while I know it's hard to, sell the top or whatever, it still, just kind of bothered me that, hey, I'm sitting here 5 days later and I have $1,000, but I could have $2,000.
Yeah.
And potentially, knowing what I know now, again, potentially looking at, what was happening on the chart, I potentially could have avoided some of that. But.
Yeah. And, you're absolutely right. It is very difficult to sell the top of the chart, but those pesky little voices, those hindsight voices of, oh, you coulda, I mean, they always show up, even though it is very, very difficult to sell the top. So you realize the profits here, still a good solid profit. But I mean, like you already mentioned, you have this kind of voice, you have this feeling, whatever you want to call it, in the back of your mind. I feel like that was kind of random. I feel like this is too good to be true. I feel like it was luck. So where did you go from that point in time? Did you slow things down, or did you continue to trade?
So yeah, I continued to trade on Robinhood. So again, I still was, I wasn't educated. I was still kind of choosing tickers the same way, pretty much, just a guessing game. So I didn't have any blowout losses, but it was pretty much just a death by 1,000 cuts. And sooner or later, I had given back pretty much all of the ETRM profits, I'd say probably in about a month. So I really, I had some gains in there, but predominantly I was just kind of small losers, $75 here, $50 here.
And did so I guess after seeing these profits dwindle away, I'm going to guess that was kind of the wake-up call that I need to look more into this. There's something I'm missing. Is that accurate to say?
Yeah, definitely.
So where'd you turn? Did you turn to Google, Yahoo Finance, YouTube? Where did you decide to look? Amazon?
Yeah, so I actually I found the Clay and I found the podcast basically through the podcast. So I have like a 25 to 30 minute commute everywhere to work every single day. So at the time I was trying to look for how can I educate myself, but I also like to manage my time well. So I was looking for something that I could listen to try to educate myself during my commute to work every day. So I did some searching. I found a couple of podcasts involving the stock market. and I just started listening to them. One of them, being your podcast. And so after, listening to a few of these podcasts, this one really stood out to me. Just being able to hear the stories from people just like myself, some of those people who had the same experience as I did, kind of that fool's gold, and then just kind of slowly lost those profits. But also, hearing some people who, didn't have such luck right at the beginning and who lost it all. So being able to, kind of hear those stories kind of just provided some, kind of wisdom for me. So that's kind of where I started, just trying to say, where can I get more information? So with that, that's kind of where I heard a lot of people on the podcast talking about, technical analysis charts, kind of the stuff that, you preach, and along with the CTU. So that's kind of where I was first introduced to, here's what, Clay offers in terms of, here's what you offer in terms of education.
And correct me if I'm wrong, because you've listened to a lot of podcasts, as you said before. It's amazing how similar some of the stories can be, in the sense of it's almost like two paths, like you said. I fell into the camp of I never had any fool's gold, and I always had to fight my way to kind of get to where I'm at now. And I'm always sometimes jealous of people who are totally lucky off the get-go. But then I also realize that most of the time it's a disservice, because then they think they know everything, and then, game over. They're going to take some big blowout loss. So you obviously hear a good amount of stories, and people who have like absolutely horror stories too, compared to some, compared to where we're coming from here. But I mean, what did that, and you hear about charts and stuff like that. Did you have any knowledge at all at that time of technical analysis, or did you invest in PD, any of that stuff? Or were you primarily trading and kind of dwindling those profits away with the due diligence, news-based, information-based trading?
And I want to piggyback real quick, because I'm curious, you have a finance degree. So was there a hurdle that you had to overcome from, maybe finance professors that are just, because I get it, the college textbooks, finance professors, some people, they're not exactly, when they're all about portfolio theory and, the PE ratios, they kind of crap on technical analysis. So did you have any of those mental hurdles to overcome that were created by potentially college professors?
Yeah, so I didn't really have the mental hurdles. I mean, so I really wasn't, like I was saying, I wasn't like buying stocks and equities and kind of investing or trading based off of fundamentals before. I mean, like I was just, when I first got started with that Robinhood, I was kind of, everything was just kind of just, reading, like I was saying, with the Yahoo Finance stuff. So I didn't have that, set up or, kind of way that I was doing things that involved the fundamentals. So when I, kind of was introduced or first, found out about technical analysis and candlesticks and charts and everything, it was all so fascinating to me that, looking at, all this stuff and actually seeing it live in examples and just kind of looking at how all this stuff came together, it was just, truly fascinating to me, to where I just, I just wanted to continue to just obtain more information about technical analysis and, kind of how I could use that to kind of navigate my way through these trades and just be smarter in what I was doing.
Nice. Well, that's I'm glad to hear that there was no college experience that really just made you think that technical analysis was like the scum of the earth, and that the only way to go about making money in the market is through portfolio theory and balance sheets and cash flow statements and income and all that stuff. So good to hear that didn't quite occur. But you're figuring out all this stuff about technical analysis, and it sounds like you're still trading as you do. So as you're trading, are you using real money in conjunction now with charts as you try to teach yourself charts?
Yeah. So when I joined CTU, it was in April. So I didn't dabble in any of like the a la carte offerings. I just joined CTU right off the bat, and at the same time I had opened up a Fidelity account and was using their Active Trader Pro platform. So I realized that, I couldn't sustain the Robinhood thing. I needed to be able to have that charting, and I needed to be able to implement all the technical analysis stuff that I was learning. So obviously, Robinhood would no longer support that. So I did open up a Fidelity account at that time.
Now, I'm just pure curiosity. Are Fidelity charts, are those pretty solid? Because I have no idea. I'm not sure I've ever seen a Fidelity chart before. Yeah,
I do. That Active Trader Pro platform is pretty good. I'll give it some credit. I've since moved away from that, but we can get into that a little later on in the story.
Perfect. But I mean, so for listeners out there, if you're kind of wanting a way to tradingview.com, that's always a very straightforward one that you can use that are free when you're in kind of the learning stage. But yeah, okay, good to know. Props to you, Fidelity, on that. And I will be curious on why you moved away. But like you said, we'll get to that later on down the road. So I guess, did you sign up for Inner Circle first before Clay Trader University?
No, I just jumped right into CTU.
So, I mean, I don't know. I'm always fascinated because a lot of people, and I get it, me and Chez were just guys on the internet. It's just some site. There's a lot of scummy stuff out there. A lot of people, I'm going to dip my toe in the water. I'm just going to get Inner Circle, or I'm just going to dip my toe in the water and I'll get, a course here, a course there. And then, I'll kind of see what happens. And like I said, I'm not offended by that. I understand. But you just kind of jumped right in. So, I mean, I guess you were just fired up about it, but I mean, what exactly gave you the confidence and, the kind of the desire to want to just throw yourself into the mix, all up front like that?
Yeah, so I went through a lot of kind of your free material, a lot of the stuff that, you put out on YouTube and stuff. And just kind of what I got was that, you just seemed very real with, and you wanted to help people. You wanted to educate people, and you weren't, some of the other people that are kind of taunting around and saying like, hey, join this, learn my way, be riding around on a yacht or whatever. I wasn't interested in that. I'm not someone that can be duped that easily. So just kind of your kind of realism and coming off as, hey, this is going to take time and effort. But, I have, these courses and I have this CTU that's set up in a way where you can, kind of logically learn these things in an order that's going to make sense to you. And I just felt like you had, you had the ability to break things down, even in your free stuff, to the point where I was able to just kind of consume it and learn things quickly. So I really didn't hesitate in terms of, wanting to take one of the courses. Plus I figured, all right, if I take the course and then I like it, I'm not going to get the best deal for myself anyway.
Right.
So.
You understood math, and that's good. I'm glad, because that's the whole point of the free material. Like I always tell people, listen, I promise that if you like my free material, that all of a sudden I just get lazy on the paid stuff, and that it's going to be totally different than the free material. If you like the free stuff, then that's my way of saying, then yeah, save yourself some money and just go all in, because I promise you, I put just as much time and effort into the paid for stuff. Actually, I put into more time and effort into that stuff than the free stuff. So for all of you listeners, if you like the free stuff, then yeah, that's my sales pitch to you. Then you'll enjoy the premium content.
Don't be fooled. The premium content is his daughter holding an old VHS camcorder, and Clay's got some poster board, and this is a chart and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. And candlesticks. I talk about our actual literal candlesticks that you use when that's exactly it. VHS
dinner, the dinner table candlesticks.
Yeah, 480 or whatever that. I don't even know what that was. But you mentioned the free material. And just for listeners, in case somebody never wants to spend a dime, that's perfectly fine too. But to maybe help out those people that just they refuse to spend money on anything, was there any part of any of the free stuff that really stood out to you that helped you out in your journey at all?
Even just something as little as the ticker alerts and just kind of the chart analysis. So just something as simple as just being able to have that chart vision to pull up a chart and just simply identify support and resistance. Something like that, I think is just kind of key to like when you're first starting out. Something that, when I was trading using Robinhood, I didn't even know of a chart. So if I'm sitting there potentially and something I did want to bring up was just, since then I've kind of looked back at some of those trades that I've made, and all you can do is kind of laugh. So I've actually went down to like the minute when I purchased things and when I purchased, one of the stocks, and looked back at the chart, and there were many times that I'm sitting there buying at a wolf candle, or I'm just dead bodies on the chart, and I'm sitting there buying, and just kind of like just didn't make any sense, how I was doing things. But just something like that is just, you can get some of that stuff, in the free material that you're offered. But, when I originally purchased CTU, I had a couple of those friends that I was, trading with on Robinhood. They kind of thought I was crazy for spending that money. When I had originally told them I spent, that money for my education for stock trading, they basically felt like I was getting scammed. But to this day, 8 months later, I honestly think, it's been worth every single penny and then some. So.
That's funny. Now, real quick, when he's talking about buying dead bodies, he's not. That's just terminology and lingo we use. But yeah, buying at wolf candles, buying when there's dead bodies going on, probably not the time to buy. So that's actually very comical that you went back and you just noticed. Wow, I literally had no idea. And also, I want to defend Angelo. Back at the beginning, and we've had this before, but when Ches and I were asking him, what was your strategy, and he was kind of just stumbling over his words, just kind of pretty much saying nothing, that's because there was nothing going on. And when there's nothing going on and then you realize there's nothing going on, it's kind of a bad question for Ches and I to even ask the guy, because what's he supposed to say? I mean, pretty much it was pure randomness, and I don't know what you want me to describe other than pure randomness. I do like how you said there was no really science behind it, but so that's funny. That totally makes sense why when Ches and I are grilling you with those questions, you're kind of just like, I don't know what you want me to say. There wasn't really much going on at all. And just out of curiosity, those buddies, are they still trading? If they are still trading, are they having success, or is it just a bunch of up and down action? Do you have any? Are you still in touch with them?
Yeah, they're still trading, and the one couple of them I constantly have to harp on risk management to them, because while they've come a long way themselves, I'm always just worried that one day I'm going to get the text message and he's going to be like, Angelo, guess what happened? And he's going to have some blowout count type trade, because I just think that particular friend's just he's lacking in the risk management area, but I wish him well.
Yeah, and if you're a buddy of Angelo, then yeah, that's cool with me. But yeah, to shoot straight with him, you are exactly right, because it will get him. He could have a year of just gains, but all it takes is that one, and game over just like that. So I mean, you are more than valid in thinking that it's probably only a matter of time before the market comes to eat his lunch. Because sometimes Hansel and Gretel, right? That's a story where the witch likes to fatten up the kids before she eats them or whatever, before she puts them in the stew. Sometimes the market is like that witch. It likes to fatten people up a little bit. It likes to get them nice and plump before just throwing them in the stew and eating all their. Ches, that was a good analogy, wasn't it?
I was just going to say, you've actually just super impressed me with that analogy. That's so fitting for the market.
I have no idea where that came from. Maybe because I'm hungry, right? I don't know. I have no idea. But Angelo, what do you think? Was that decent?
Saved up, just waiting for the perfect time?
Yeah, I did. I was just like, the sticky note, I can tear it. No. Anyways, listeners are probably like, that was the worst analogy I've ever heard. But I
was impressed.
Don't let the market Hansel and Gretel you. Well, maybe we'll have to. Ches, we're going to have to
make that a video.
Yeah, we're going to have to put our heads together and make this some sort of like trading setup that we can alert in the chat rooms. Hansel and Gretel setup. And I don't know what that will be, but we'll have to get Angelo's opinion on that too. So I guess you're in CTU. You've gone through all the video, or you've found the free videos helpful. You jumped right in, and it sounds like, I guess, how long after you joined CTU? I know you changed the Fidelity because you realized Robinhood wasn't what you needed. But how long did that actually take place? Was that like instant, where you quickly realized Robinhood didn't fit, or did that take going through a couple weeks of videos and such before you realized that you needed to move on?
Yeah. So when I joined CTU, I withdrew the money out of my Robinhood account. In terms of just the course,
why?
Just because there's no ability to kind of look at the charts and do that kind of stuff. So I was like, I don't want to continue down the path that I'm on. I don't even want to be tempted. I just want the money out, and then I'm going to continue with this education. And then when I feel I'm ready, I'll open up another account.
Angelo, you're going to make me and Clay cry by having just that simple logic, and listeners might think like, oh yeah, that actually makes sense. I can't tell you, and I'm sure Clay can't tell you either. We can't count on all of our family members, fingers and toes, how many people, no, I'm going to invest in my education. Then what do? They keep trading while they're trying to go through the stuff, and they're like, oh, I blew up my account before I finished the courses, and oh, now I actually know how to trade, but I have no money left. So good on you for closing your accounts. And I guess how long did you spend going through the courses before you started putting trades on through Fidelity again?
So I took robotic trading and then the skill sharpening fairly quickly. I don't know the exact timing. I'd probably say I took about a week or two to go through those courses.
Did you print out the guides?
Yes, I did.
There you go. Okay. Good man.
So I went through those, and that's when I was like, all right, I feel like I've learned some things, obviously a lot, but I had that itch. I still wanted to be able to kind of put some of that learnings to work. So that's when I did open up that Fidelity account, and I put about 10 grand into that Fidelity account right off the bat. But I'll give myself credit. Even though I had put that amount of money in it, I wasn't trading like I had the $10,000 in the account. So I was very, very conservative in terms of position size, because I knew, there was still a lot of stuff that I had to learn, obviously, with the courses that I had remaining. So it was kind of my way to justify, like, all right, I'm going to put some of this education to work, but I'm going to be really disciplined. So obviously I'm not going to,
And for context, this was after robotic trading and skill sharpening?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, I mean, you got the foundation down of technical analysis. That's what those two really kind of hammer on, but you still haven't gone through the risk versus reward course yet. So I guess, how did your trading go? I know obviously you're keeping it small, and that's really good because you got to get the mechanics down of your brokerage, but I guess how did those trades go?
Yeah, so that's a good lead in. So the risk versus reward class, I hadn't taken yet. So, while I did learn a lot in those first two courses, to kind of put that all together in that risk versus reward, I was getting in trades. I was keeping my losers small. I was obviously adhering to that, but I just wasn't finding the right entry points, things like that. So, to where the RVR course kind of puts that all into perspective, and kind of makes you ask yourself, does it make sense to buy right now, given the chart, given where things are. So that was kind of the piece that I was missing. So, I had some losers and I had some winners, but overall, my account was just kind of going sideways, and I was paying commissions, and that, that's kind of what was happening there.
And that makes sense. And I do want to distinguish, because we have potentially apples and oranges. Keep in mind Angelo's point of view. He knew what to practice to an extent. So he knew enough where he was keeping it small. He wasn't, was he making a bunch of money? No, because, he still had more stuff to learn, but it's not like he was losing all sorts of money either. So yeah, he was practicing, but as I always tell people, you need to know what to practice. Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So Angelo had an idea of what to practice. Yeah, it was still missing some things, but at least he had enough knowledge to not go out there and get himself killed or anything like that. So that's a big distinction, because I can see some people just fine saying, well, I listened to that one guy and he took a couple courses and then he was just right at it. Yeah, and that's fine. But if your idea is, okay, so I'm going to do that exact same thing. I'm going to go watch some YouTube videos and I'll use that as my courses, and then I'm going to trade with real money. Now you're hopping into oranges. You got to keep things apples to apples, and you got to be very careful, with the way you kind of justify things. So did you start after you got through robotic trading? I'm assuming when you started to look back at those real money trades, a lot of it was you're thinking, oh, yeah, okay, I was kind of on the right track, but I wasn't quite there. Is that kind of a fair kind of a analogy of how you were looking back on your previous trades?
Yeah, just situations where, like, all right, yeah, I kind of bought it too high, where I would have had to, if I had taken some of the additional courses, kind of, waited a little bit and had it come back to me, and it would have made more sense from a risk versus reward standpoint. But yeah, definitely, when I look back at that stuff, it kind of all was like a aha moment for me.
And I'm assuming you didn't do any real account damage at that time, even with those types of trades, did you?
No, like I said, my account was, I had some winners, I had some losers, and my account was just pretty much going sideways.
Gotcha. And sideways is much better than down, and sideways is always the first step to kind of heading up. So,
and Ches, you always say that. So that's the one quote that you've said, that part of the learning process is losing money, and not to just making money. It's losing money to breaking even. And it sounds like, Angelo is following that exact process. He was now at the breaking even stage, which would make sense given that he was taking courses, but he hadn't quite taken all of them. So, Ches, your theory plays out once again.
Good. I'm going to get a Nobel Peace Prize for that at some point. But yeah, so you're going sideways. I'm assuming now you're going to start delving into more courses, or are you just stepping back from trading a little bit and saying, hey, I need to start I mean, at that point, you've only done the technical analysis side. So I really want to hear the pre RVR trading and post RVR trading. So how was post RVR trading?
Yeah, so post RVR trading was better. It's just the kind of the issue that I fell into now, or at that time, was that, my strategies were, is to never hold overnight. So I'm more of a short-term kind of scalper, focus on the 2 and 5 minute charts. So the big issue that I was running into, and I believe it was, it was affecting the trades that I was making, was the PDT rule. So I think PDT, it's honestly the worst thing in the world, if you ask me. But
I would agree.
When you only have 3 day trades a week, it really does mess with your psychology. And, I believe that obviously trading is psychology is a huge aspect in trading. Some might say, or I might say, it's 90% of trading is psychology. So I found myself kind of trying to work around this PDT rule since I didn't have the 25,000 in my account. So I found myself, not locking in profits. Even if I had that RVR set up perfectly, I was kind of waiting around, not locking in profits when the market gave it to me, because it might not have been, my full 3-to-1. But it was all based on the fact that I only had 3 day trades a week and PDT, existed.
Yeah, and that absolutely, there is no doubt in my mind that it absolutely, first off, makes no sense and is just a complete hindrance, but that it also will totally negatively affect you from a psychology standpoint, in the sense of your hands are almost both of your hands are tied behind your back, and you have 3 opportunities. So your brain is going to just wait for the most, at least my brain always waited for the most confirmation in the world, because this is one of the 3 trades. It's got to really work out for me. And I was always buying it like the worst time because I'd waited so long for it. But so I guess PDT is a big hindrance for you in your trading. Are you going to put more money into your account? Are you going to focus on, trading cash account options, Forex, anything else? Or are you just going to still kind of deal with the PDT and, work your way out?
Yeah, so at that point in time, I just kind of, like I was saying, I found myself just being in the middle of trades, green trades, but, hesitating from taking the double or the single and, trying to hit that home run. And then I would see, winners turn into losers. So that's when I kind of said, all right, for my strategy and what I'm trying to do, I need that 25,000 in the account. But at the same time, I hadn't went through all the courses. I didn't feel like I was completely educated to the point where I wanted to put that much capital in. So I, once again, pulled all my money out of the Fidelity account so that I was not tempted. And I just kind of set up a paper trading plan for myself.
I love how that's the second time that at least I've heard removing money because to eliminate temptation. And I get it. A lot of you are, no, I'm not, that's too much hassle. Like you have to click a button for a wire to get stuff out. Like that ACH, it's such, so I'm not going to be tempted. I'll just leave the money in the account. And then before you know it, what are you doing? You're buying or you're doing something that you don't want to be doing because you're tempted. Because let's face it, and this is one of the catch-22s of the market, trading is fun. It is without doubt fun. It can be exhilarating. It can be amazing that you can sit there in your underwear, press a couple buttons, and all of a sudden your account, you are worth more money as an individual by sitting in your underwear, pressing buttons on the computer. And that is what is leading to these temptations. So he keeps bringing up, I don't want to be tempted. I don't want to be tempted. You may still not believe Angelo. You still may not believe Ches and I when we say that temptation is real. And for those of you, I guess you just have to go out there, experience trading, realize how fun, realize how just kind of crazy, amazing it is. And then all of a sudden, when that money's sitting there, you're going to notice some voices that show up, and some of those voices are definitely going to be the temptation voice. So that's a great talking point that I can really never talk too much about because it's so real. So I love to hear Angelo was just so proactive against it, where he was literally like smacking those voices across the face saying, you know what? No, you're not. I'm not going to give you an opportunity. The money is gone. So, I mean, was that just, I guess, because a lot of people struggle with that, but for you, it sounds like it was almost common sense. So, I mean, what was your line of logic to do that, to not want to be tempted?
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that, I sat there and I looked, I have all these courses still left to go. I've even went back and done all the archived webinars. I still have about 20 left to go to get completely current. But I'm just, the market's not going anywhere. And I just want to make sure that, when I'm 100% ready to go live, that I've consumed and I've, given myself the knowledge to where I'm setting myself up for the best, success. I don't want to set myself up to fail and then, kind of look back and regret that I kind of went in too early on it. So I have no problem taking my time to go through that material.
And you answered my question when you said the markets are not going anywhere. There you go. That's got to be the Jedi mind trick you played on yourself. And to all you listeners out there, the sooner you realize the markets are not going anywhere, the easier it becomes to remove temptation, to remove money from your account, to tap the brakes. Because you nailed it. He nailed it, and that's got it. Ches, would you agree that was probably, when he made that statement, that's got to be what was going on in his mind that helped him overcome those bridges of temptation? The markets aren't going anywhere, right?
Right, and it's, I don't know, for me it was kind of like the flipping of a switch. The minute it just kind of sunk into my head that, I don't have to force it on any one day, especially when I'm just not in tune with the market. I used to just sit here and plink away until the bell, and I was like, I only dug the hole generally deeper. And then I came to the realization that some days I'm just not in tune with it, and leave the desk. It'll be there tomorrow. It'll be there next week. It'll be there next month. And granted, it might be higher or lower. It doesn't matter. There's opportunities every single day. And once you kind of realize that there's not this, weight on your shoulder that, oh, nope, you got to peg every single trade that comes across your screen right now at this very moment. That's it. There'll never be another one. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was a big turning point for me.
Yeah, I like that light switch analogy. But so you mentioned, before I sidetracked us down that rabbit hole, but a very important rabbit hole for you listeners out there. But you withdrew all the money from Fidelity to remove the temptation. So pick things up from there.
Yeah. So just to bring some context, that was right around June when that happened. So my focus was, I wanted to just focus on continuing to go through the courses and all the the content through CTU. Just kind of be in the chat room, look at the alerts, just kind of paper trade in the meantime. So at that point, I was kind of totally in the mindset of, all right, well, if I can't make money paper trading, then, how can I expect to make money in the real market? So I run most of my life out of spreadsheets, kind of a nerd like that. So I built this pretty elaborate paper trading spreadsheet that would allow me to kind of track all my paper trades and track my P&L, and even put a cushion in there to kind of just, I called it the real cushion or whatever, just to try and give myself an idea of, kind of where I would be at if I was really making these trades. So I think I messaged you about, Clay, I think I messaged you and asked you for some advice as to, how much I should consider that when I'm trying to adjust for entry points and things like that.
Where you're making life difficult on yourself? Are you talking about that aspect? Yes. And I have a couple free videos out there. But when you're paper trading, to make things as realistic as possible, you gotta tilt things against you. Way too many people tilt everything in their favor, and they're like, "Holy crap, I'm making all kinds of money paper trading." And then you look at what their assumptions are and all this, that, and the other, and like, well, yeah, that's kind of tilting things a little bit in your favor. When you are paper trading, you want to make your life as difficult as possible, because if you can make money in those difficult conditions, then while you're still not guaranteed to make money with real money, at least you're improving your odds. So how long did all this paper trading, and by the way, I love to hear about this spreadsheet, and that's good stuff, because I love me some spreadsheets too, but how long did this paper trading last for?
Yes, I'm still doing that. I've been doing that since June. So the only problem here, thing that holds me back, is just my work schedule. So I do work full time, so I try to schedule meetings around the market, and I do have some success with that. But there are some days that I don't get to completely focus on the paper trading during those prime hours of the morning. So there's days I'm missing. So it's a hindrance at this point, but I know it's just something that has to be done. So at this point, I want to keep that money flow coming in until I'm completely ready. But
no, of course, that's the guaranteed trade for sure.
And then I wanted to, Ches, we're getting good. We always talk behind the scenes. We're trying to coordinate when each other is supposed to talk. But you just read that, didn't you? When you stopped talking, Ches?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, a little behind the scenes action there. But I'm gonna, because it didn't sound like you said it in a negative way, but your job is a hindrance. But at the same time, I would argue it's not a hindrance, and I know you don't mean it in this fashion, but I'm just gonna nitpick. But I mean, the best trade anybody can ever make as far as growing accounts, growing personal finances, getting more money to trade is not trading to get more money to trade. It is trading a JOB, ticker symbol JOB. So your job, while you say it's a hindrance, and I get what aspect you mean in that, I mean, can you agree that probably helps out with your desire not to rush into the market, your desire not to do anything rash, because it's giving you peace of mind? You know that there's still income coming in. Is that a fair assumption on my part?
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think, so with where I'm at is I eventually want this to work out to be where it's, my full-time gig and I'm able to do this full-time. So I think while right now, I'm able to kind of work around it and work around my work schedule. The reason why I said it was a hindrance is for me to actually, pull that trigger and do this full time. I do think that there needs to be some period where I'm kind of, waking up every day, getting in that kind of swing of things and kind of going through my kind of day to day where, if I was doing it for real. So while right now it's kind of holding me back, just in terms of actually starting that, it did let me pause for a second and say, all right, until I'm completely, ready to dive in, I'm going to just continue. It's not like I'm just going to randomly, quit my job and expect I can make money out of the market. So I need to prove that out. But at the same time, I think it's difficult to kind of get in that mindset and get in that swing of things of it being your full-time thing when it's technically not. Like, that makes any sense.
No, it absolutely does, and I'm speaking from personal experience going from that transition, and I did it the hard way. You obviously you got a much better plan than I did when I was kind of doing that. But I just had a question for you. Did you ever involved in the training, or do you guys at any point in your since you started trading consider swing trading where you are actually holding overnight, or is there just something specifically a specific reason why you don't ever want to do that?
No, I think it's just a mental thing for me at this point. So I mean, I think obviously that strategy makes a lot more sense for someone who has, the full-time job. I just, for some reason, and maybe I can just, adjust for the risk just with like position size and stuff, but just holding overnight and not knowing, where that thing's gonna open up at is just something I think mentally I would probably just have to get over. But I just, especially if you're shorting something, I think it's just that unknown risk. So I mean, you can have a stop loss in there, but if that thing opens up, $4 gaps down or gaps up, and it's $4 past your stop loss, you can't really account for that risk there.
Now, I want to make a suggestion, and it's worth whatever you want to make of it. But you mentioned spreadsheets, you mentioned loving numbers and all that sort of stuff. If I remember the quote, I'm a nerd like that. So you love your spreadsheets. You're a nerd. That's great. We're all nerds here. Have you done anything with advanced options? Have you done any of those courses?
So I've taken Options Simplified, and the advanced options is actually the next one up for me to actually go through. So,
and I want to bring Ches into this because he's more of the options farmer. But and Ches, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody that's nerdy, loving spreadsheets, has a full-time job. It sounds like advanced options is something, and he's concerned about his risk and stuff like that with those weird gap ups and stuff like that, which is all valid. I mean, but it sounds like advanced options is for a spreadsheet nerd is right up his alley. Wouldn't you agree with that as somebody that has done quite a bit with that?
Yeah, and I was just going to say the big thing that stuck out to me was that I'm fully aware of what, overnight risk entails if, say, you were just long or short, a call or a put or anything like that. The cool thing about it is, though, and I've preached this in other podcasts as well, and there's actually a ton of people in the community that work full-time and actually apply advanced options for that very reason, is that you essentially set your risk and everything in advance. You set, your probability of profit in advance. And for me, I never had a problem, going to bed. I could sleep easy at night because that risk was capped. I wasn't just, I really hope this doesn't gap down in the morning, or because the whole thing is all, you have such a wide range of areas that you can profit, and it really takes a good amount to be wrong. But yeah, I think your eyes might actually really be open, and it might just give you like another I always call these a different form of income. You might use half of your account for, say, advanced options, and then you could use the other half of the account for whatever kind of stuff you're trying to day trade, depending on how you're going to do it, if the PDT is still an issue. But yeah, advanced options are always, kind of, most people we deal with who have a full-time job, they always kind of land there. And that's actually where I started before I actually went kind of full-time.
So it sounds like you're open to advanced options then, it sounds like. You just haven't gotten to the course?
Yeah, that's everything that's just been said is, it's intriguing to me. Because as I mentioned before, I've kind of skipped over some of the podcasts, some of that material. And so advanced options been something that I've kind of I haven't went through the course. So, when, that stuff kind of gets brought up, I either haven't listened to it or I've kind of just said I'm not
you
there
zone
yet.
out. You can say you start daydreaming. Yeah, I understand. I won't take too much offense. But, okay, well, that's I feel like we're making progress because you're clearly, it sounds like you're cut out of the cloth of what a successful advanced options trader would be. You have the nice income stream coming in with the job, and advanced option trading is definitely something you can do with a job. So I'm definitely seeing a future follow-up podcast here to kind of get your thoughts and see where you're at after you go through that advanced course. And definitely, of course, keep me updated through email or the chat room or whatever. But as we start to wrap things up here, looking at the time, I do want to ask, I always like to focus on strengths and weaknesses. So I'm going to give Ches the short end of the stick here. I'm going to let him ask you about some weaknesses. But as you've been paper trading over the past several months, what are some things that you feel are good, solid, strengths that, you have confidence in and that that you feel pretty good about?
Yes, I would say risk management. So just within my overall trading plan, I know what I'm willing to risk, in each trade. And so it's when you kind of set that up in your plan, it's pretty easy to just kind of look for your setups that fit your plan versus just kind of, going wild west and just kind of saying, all right, should I get in now? Or, if it doesn't fit your plan, move to the next one. And so when you have that plan, it's kind of easy. So I would say just kind of being disciplined and having that risk management and sticking to that plan, I think is my biggest strength at this point in time.
And I think, a lot of people, if they've never traded in the market, might not understand how difficult it is to not just go and chase something or, ooh, it's moving, so let me get in here. What Angelo is saying is it's got to meet his plan or he's not getting in. He's not going to rework the plan to kind of make it work. It fits the criteria or it doesn't fit the criteria. And that is such a strong strength because a lot of people just have this fear of missing out, the FOMO. And everything you just described is like a FOMO killer. It's just, nope, it either works or it doesn't. And that's an awesome strength to have. Now, in terms of weaknesses, what are some things you want to work on going forward?
I think just, I would probably say execution. So, and this is kind of, you really can't, the paper trading, you attempt to do it, but paper trading versus, real life, your actual money, and especially when you're working in smaller time frames, if you're on a minute chart or 2 minute chart, like executing in a platform is like really critical. So, where I'm at now, I do have a Lightspeed account. So just trying to be able to kind of navigate my way through that and just improve on executing in those like smaller time frames. I think that's just something that ongoing will, come to me. But
Nice. Well, I always like to ask that question, and it's always one of those things where someone's like, yeah, I really, and they're like not thinking of any weaknesses. It's like, I don't straight up tell them this, but I'm thinking, I don't know if you're necessarily being honest with yourself, but it sounds like you're well aware of things that you need to work on, that you want to work on. And, that's really the majority of the battle is just admitting to yourself that, yeah, you have weaknesses, and there's nothing wrong with having weaknesses. There's nothing wrong with needing to work on things. That doesn't make you a bad trader at all. It makes you actually a very self-aware trader. And on the topic of aware, I'm sure you are aware that Ches has a time machine. And I'm just going to speak for Ches here, but Ches would lend you that time machine. And if you could go back to the start, back to, and we'll let you define kind of whenever the start is, what would be one bit of advice that you'd give yourself?
Yeah, so if I could go back in time, I guess I wouldn't have waited until I was, 30 years old to get this engaged in the markets. So, I would have just started a lot earlier. So like I said, I always knew of the markets, but really never took a deep dive into them. And I wish I would have ran into that fool's gold about, 10 years earlier, because today I would just be, much farther along, in my learning process, But on the flip side of that, as I mentioned before, I guess one of the beautiful things about the market is that, it's been around for so many years, and it's going to continue to be around, and it's not going anywhere. So while I wish I would have started earlier, it's okay.
Yeah, we all get here when we get here, and that's why I always commend, especially when we get kind of younger folks that are starting to get involved in the market. I know half the reason why they're interested at all is because they probably saw Wolf of Wall Street on movie, and they think that that's what trading is about. But regardless of it, we all get here when we get here, and just like you said, there's opportunities throughout the rest of our lives to kind of make money in the market. The important thing is that you're here and you're going to be focused on that risk, and you're good to go. But Angelo, it was an absolute pleasure talking to you today. Clay would agree, and I have no problem and no worries about inviting you back in the future, because I'm real interested to kind of hear, after you get through that advanced options course, how your trading is going to which way it's going to head, because essentially, you got a lot of choices in that. But the most important question that Clay really wants me to ask you is, what is your favorite movie?
I'd probably say my favorite movie is Silver Linings Playbook.
Jennifer Lawrence and
Bradley Cooper.
Bradley Cooper. That's it. That's a pretty good one. I first one on the podcast, but yeah, I can get behind that. I just want to quickly touch on something. You wish you would have started sooner, but correct me if I'm wrong. Were you? It sounded like you were investing into your 401k or some sort of company investing, like when you got out of school, so in your 20s. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah. I was just speaking more of kind of the from a trading standpoint versus investing. But I'm Angelo, I'm trying to look at the glasses half full here. You could be sitting here saying, and I was so stupid that I didn't even start investing in my 20s. At True.
least you started to invest, and at least you already have the power of time and compounding interest and all that stuff on your side. So my point is, it could have been a lot worse, because you could be sitting here at age 30 or whatever you are. And I just started investing too. So, but no, that's not the case. So do you see, can we look at the glasses half full, buddy?
Yep. Glasses half full. I agree.
Excellent.
With you.
Excellent. You're such a data analysis guy. You're just like, just give me the numbers, give me the fact. Where's a spreadsheet? I need a spreadsheet to be able to answer these questions. Do you have a glasses half full or empty spreadsheet, by the way?
Nope. I should get one though.
Yeah, you should. You could create like a little column that lights up a certain color in terms of, is it half full or half empty? But anyway, so I guess that's a good, I get it, but it could be a lot worse. Anyways, what about, I'm going to forget this, but where are you at geographically?
Oh, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm your Ohio State Buckeye buddy from the.
That's right. That's right. Go Bucks. Where did you go to school? Did you go to Ohio State?
I went to Ohio University. But.
Bobcat, Athens. Yep. I looked at that when I was doing my college searching. It's super pretty down there, but yeah, Athens, Ohio, Bobcat there. I had a bunch of buddies that went there too. But so you're a Bobcat fan and an Ohio State fan, or a Buckeye fan, I should say? Yep. Nice. And anyways. Good stuff. So I guess, I don't know, but what led me to this was, are you going to be down at the meetup in Florida?
I'm not going to be at that one, but whatever the next one is, I'm definitely going to make sure I schedule around that and make sure I'm available to be there.
Okay, and I'm also going to grill you here. According to my calculations and according to my spreadsheet, the last meetup was in Columbus, Ohio. And according to my calculation and my spreadsheet, that's only like a 2-hour drive. And I don't recall meeting you in Columbus, so I got a kind of bone to pick with you here. Where were you on that one?
That is true. I can't remember. I did have something going on that I probably.
Also, you were working on spreadsheets, weren't you?
Yeah, I also felt like I was too much of a newbie at that time. But I guess
that's Chez, what are we gonna do with this guy?
We'll let him slide this time.
Yeah, I guess.
I'll be at the
All right.
2018, no excuses.
Yeah, we have it documented. You will not be in Florida, but the next one you will be at, and you all heard it here first. But good. I'm glad you plan on attending, because you seem like a cool guy who would like to hang out. But anyways, back to the traditional questions here. What do you like to eat? What's your favorite meal and dessert?
So I guess that would have to depend if it was a cheat meal or not. So I'm kind of one of those guys where I'm looking all about what I'm eating and stuff. But under the assumption
let's do both. Let's do a healthy meal and then a cheat meal.
All right, I would say so. If I'm cheating, I'd probably eat some wings. So I'm a sucker for chicken wings, and throw in some dipping sauces for me, and I'm all set.
Yeah, that's pure America right there. Chicken wings. I'm with you there on a cheat day. Chez, I know you do cheat days. I mean, chicken wings, is that one of your go-tos?
It's chicken wings, pizza, stromboli, any pasta, Italian-y,
Carb
everything
filled,
that's bad
yeah.
for me. Yes, that's my Saturday, but that's the only day I get it. So the rest of the time it's like chicken and, vegetables and stuff like that.
So, Angelo, what about you on your healthy days?
I'd probably just go with some grilled salmon or something like that with some boring vegetables.
Hey, nice.
You get used to it. I just season stuff differently all the time. That's how I make the same meal taste different, week after week after week. My wife always laughs at me. She goes, "How do you do that?" I'm like, "I just change the flavors every week, so don't worry about it." But yeah, like I said before, Angelo, it was absolutely awesome having you. Thank you again for being a guest. And if you had to describe successful trading in 3 words, what would those 3 words be?
I guess the first one would be knowledgeable. So, whether it's chart knowledge or just general market knowledge, if you don't have this, you might as well be gambling. You're a sheep, and people are gonna take advantage of you real quick. So, and you're not giving yourself any sort of edge if you don't have that knowledge. So, I think the key to the whole trading thing is putting as many things in your favor as you can, and then managing that risk. So, I'd say knowledge. Also, I'd say patience. So Rome, wasn't built in a day, like they say. So it takes time to build great things. So if you're patient and inquisitive enough over time, you're going to be able to build yourself that strong foundation that will allow you to be successful in the markets. And then lastly, I'd say either systematic or automated, I guess whatever one you want to use. But so I read some study that spoke to this point regarding dieting, but I also think that you can draw the relation to trading. But from a dieting standpoint, they say that people who kind of meal prep and plan out all their meals, a week ahead of time or whatever, are less likely to slip up and, not cheat or not eat healthy because they've either eliminated, or reduced the number of choices or decisions that they have. So I think from a trading standpoint, I think you could do the same. Same thing can be said for, stop losses. So if you enter in it with a trade already knowing what your stop loss is or what your profit lock targets are based on logical areas on the chart, then, those decisions have already been made, and you're less likely to find yourself, in the middle of a trade, not honoring the stop loss or just, not taking those profits when they're sitting right in front of you. So, I guess the old plan the trade, trade the plan type thing.
Booyah. And just to echo your diet and meal planning, meal prepping, that's what my wife does. She plans stuff out, and she keeps myself and our 4 kids and herself all on a good, healthy, regimented diet. And that's just, so yeah, I know she'd probably be crying on my shoulder. We'd be singing Kumbaya right now if she was here to hear that analogy you used. So well done, sir. And in that regard, and well done overall, this was a fantastic interview. And I'm not even going to ask you. I'm just telling you, you're going to come back. Okay. So even if you don't want to, sorry, it's too bad. You're going to come back. You're going to fill us in because you dropped a lot of good wisdom. You dropped a lot of good experience. And I'm very curious to echo Chez's point, where all this goes after you get through that advanced options course, and to see where your mind, which is obviously very analytical, where that can take you from that regard, because as we've been saying, I think that's going to be right up your alley. So thank you very much for hanging out with us. We're recording this on a Friday morning/afternoon. So I appreciate you taking time out of a Friday when a lot of people don't really feel like doing anything. So I appreciate it. And thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me, and look forward to joining again, and definitely, making it to that next meetup.
All right. You said it again. I'm going to hold that to you. So before we go, though, a final few things. If you are listening on YouTube, make sure to click that like button and check out the rest of the channel. There's a lot of other content there. That's where a lot of the free content is that Angelo talked about earlier. So check out the channel. Hopefully you decide to ultimately subscribe. If you are listening on iTunes or any of the other podcast players, make sure to subscribe there so you're always aware of when new shows come out. And then if you could, especially on iTunes, leave us a rating, preferably a 5-star rating. That really helps Chez and I out, helps us just get the word out there that much more. And little things like that, even if you never spend a dime on the site, heck, even if you never come to the site, doing something like that, we really would appreciate it. And then finally, if you're listening to this at claytrader.com on the show notes page, look at those show notes. And then also you can click that share button And down below, leave us comments. We do read them. We will reply. And it's just a quick way to interact with us if you want to chime in or leave feedback or suggestions or whatever. So thank you again to Angelo. Go Bucks. Thank you, Ches. Thank you to all of you as listeners. We'll see you back next week.
This has been the Stock Trading Reality Podcast. Thanks for taking the time to hang out. To learn more about Clay and the Clay Trader community, including the trading team, premium training, and more, visit claytrader.com.